Millions of voters decide the political fate of several cities and states. Bomb threats shut down multiple polling stations in New Jersey, and pressure mounts on Democrats as the transportation secretary issues a dire warning. I'm Daily Wire executive editor John Bickley with Georgia Howe. It's Tuesday, November 4th, and this is Evening Wire.
Federal Judge James Boasberg, who is no stranger to headlines, has been hit with articles of impeachment. Texas Congressman Brandon Gill, who filed the articles, accuses Boasberg of abusing his power by authorizing subpoenas and gag orders in the Arctic frost probe. Calling it a constitutional crisis, Gill says Boasberg weaponized his office to help the Biden Justice Department spy on lawmakers. The impeachment effort comes as GOP leaders demand accountability and as tensions over judicial overreach continue to grow in Washington. It's Election Day. Candidates around the country are making their final pitches and last-minute endorsements are rolling in. By noon Eastern, 1.2 million voters had already cast ballots in the race for New York City's next mayor, more votes than in the last mayoral contest. Polls will remain open in the Big Apple until 9 p.m. Betting odds on Tuesday at noon placed Democratic Socialist Zoran Mamdani's chances at over 90%. Here's Mamdani delivering his closing pitch to voters.
We are on the brink of making history in our city, and I look forward to fulfilling the hope that New Yorkers have put in me and to earning the trust of those who voted for another candidate or didn't vote at all.
Former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, who's been a distant second in polling and for betting markets, got a key endorsement last night, President Trump. He's calling for Republicans to cast their vote for Cuomo rather than the Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa. Here's Cuomo offering his final pitch.
5,000 new police, 1,500 police on the subways. Make New Yorkers feel safe again. You want to bring the cost of housing down, which we have to do? You have to build more affordable housing. But this is the most important election of my lifetime. This is going to determine the future of the city of New York.
Meanwhile, Sliwa has ignored all the pressure to drop out of the race. Here he was talking about his campaign to the Daily Wire.
So I started my campaign in the subways. I've spent a lot of time in the subways. My adversaries have spent minimal time. And so I take it to the people in the final hours, and I trust the people in making the decision of who the next mayor is.
In New Jersey, Republican Jack Ciattarelli is fighting to flip the deep blue state red and win the governor's mansion for the first time in nearly a decade. On the other side, Democrat Mikey Sherrill is leaning heavily on her anti-Trump message and promises to freeze rising utility rates. Final polling showed her with a narrow lead, though well within the margin of error. Both candidates were out for one last stump today. Here's Sherrill.
I'm going to work relentlessly to drive down costs for people. So I think as we are navigating what is going on in the nation right now with, as I said, constant attacks on our economy from the federal government and a need to make sure our state governments are running incredibly well to serve people and create opportunity.
And here's Ciattarelli this morning reaffirming that immigration is a top issue in the state.
Let's not forget, since Donald Trump took the presidency again, illegal crossings are down 99%. And just as he has secured the border, it's my job to secure New Jersey, and we do that by getting rid of sanctuary city, sanctuary state policy, which only encourages illegal immigration. We shouldn't be doing that.
Meanwhile, bomb threats forced polling sites to close across several counties in the Garden State today. Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo has the latest.
Officials say polling places in at least 7 counties, including Bergen, Monmouth, and Ocean, received threatening emails just hours after voting started. Police with K-9 units and bomb squads rushed to schools and community centers, quickly determining that the threats were hoaxes. Still, the evacuations caused delays and confusion for voters who are already braving long lines in the dead heat race between Republican Jack Ciattarelli and Democrat Mikey Sherrill. Lieutenant Governor Tahisha Way called the threats malicious attempts to disrupt democracy, and Ciattarelli's campaign urged calm, saying that voters shouldn't let fear silence them. Polling sites did reopen, many under heavy police guard.
Moving southward, Virginians will also elect a new governor today. Republican Winsome Earl Sears faces an uphill battle against Democrat Abigail Spanberger. Spanberger recapped her campaign in a video posted on X this morning, emphasizing her endorsement by Barack Obama and the rising cost of living.
I'm here to ask you to vote for the next governor of Virginia, Abigail Spanberger.
We need to be talking to voters about the specific plans we have to make the Commonwealth more affordable, to strengthen our schools and create opportunities for all our kids.
Earl Sears, the current lieutenant governor, made her final pitch this morning in an interview with Fox News.
Taxes are going to be lower. You're going to be safe and secure in your own homes. We've got business regulations that we've still got to get rid of. We need our children to have opportunities for education. You know, think about me. I am the most improbable person.
You were born in Jamaica.
I was born in another country, and yet here I stand. So what does it say? The American dream is still unfolding. It's still happening. Opportunities are there.
Over in California, voters are set to decide today on a controversial referendum that would override the state's ban on gerrymandering and allow Democrats to carve up several Republican-held districts. Republicans in the state have slammed the effort, calling it a power grab. Here's Republican Congressman Kevin Kiley.
I think it's a terrible thing. It's a major regression for democracy in California if this goes through. I think gerrymandering is wrong. I oppose it everywhere. We actually don't have it in California anymore. We moved on from it a long time ago. And now Gavin Newsom is trying to bring it back, and not just any gerrymander. This has actually been rated by Princeton University as one of the 2 worst gerrymanders of the last 50 years. They gave it an F grade for fairness. So as far as my own district, they're going to chop it into 6 different pieces that all go different ways to create new districts. So of course I don't like that.
Still, Newsom's campaign has raised more than $88 million to push the measure forward.
Two ballot questions in Maine are also garnering some national attention. Daily Wire assistant editor Andy Valdez has the details on the measures.
Question 1 on today's ballot would overhaul elections if passed. That would include requiring a photo ID to vote, cutting absentee voting days, and limiting ballot drop boxes. Supporters say it's about restoring confidence, while opponents call it voter suppression. Question 2 proposes a statewide red flag law letting police or family members temporarily remove guns from those who are deemed dangerous. Backers say it could save lives, while critics say it tramples Second Amendment rights.
The Department of Justice will be monitoring polling places in New Jersey and California during today's elections. Daily Wire senior editor Joel Needler has the story.
The move comes amid the Trump administration's ongoing efforts to ensure election integrity. 5 jurisdictions in California and 1 in New Jersey will be monitored by the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. According to Attorney General Pam Bondi, the department's mission will be to, quote, do everything necessary to protect the votes of eligible American citizens, ensuring our elections are safe and secure. Democrat lawmakers in the monitored districts have called the department's presence an intimidation tactic meant to dissuade certain groups from voting. The Justice Department rejects these claims, saying that their mission is, quote, aimed at promoting transparency and an open flow of communication between poll observers and election monitors to ensure that elections proceed with a high degree of security.
The Trump administration may be forced to shut down portions of U.S. airspace if the government shutdown continues for another week. Here with more is newly minted Daily Wire reporter Lyndon Blake.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned today that the ongoing shutdown has severely strained the nation's air traffic control system. Roughly 13,000 air traffic controllers are currently working without pay, many of them taking on extra shifts to cover for their colleagues who are not able to work. With staffing levels stretched thin, the system could soon reach a breaking point, potentially triggering airspace closures and widespread flight delays and cancellations. With Thanksgiving, of course, coming up, Secretary Duffy urged Congress to act swiftly to prevent any major disruptions.
Former Vice President Dick Cheney has died. He was 84. Cheney's family says he passed away last night in his home in Wyoming from complications of pneumonia and heart disease. The longtime Republican power broker served 2 terms as vice president under George W. Bush, shaping U.S. foreign policy after 9/11 and leading the charge into Iraq. Known for his unapologetic style, he remained a staunch defender of the Iraq War and, in later years, a fierce critic of Donald Trump, even endorsing Kamala Harris in 2024. Cheney is survived by his wife Lynn and daughters.
As the shutdown nears a record length, 35 days, pressure continues to mount for Democrats to reopen the government. Daily Wire political reporter Cameron Arcand has more.
Some cracks are beginning to show among Democrats. Republicans need 5 Democratic votes to end the stalemate, a threshold that has so far seemed out of reach. But a late-night meeting of 10 Democratic senators at the Capitol suggests some may be reconsidering their stance. Among those in attendance were Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire and Alyssa Slotkin of Michigan. According to reports, the group met to discuss possible compromise strategies to bring the shutdown to an end. As public pressure intensifies to find an off-ramp, Republicans appear increasingly confident in their position. prompting Democrats to weigh their new options. If no agreement is reached today, the shutdown will officially become the longest in U.S. history by Tuesday night.
President Trump once again called to abolish the Senate filibuster in a series of Truth Social posts this morning. This is not the first time the president has called for this, and he has urged Republicans to invoke the, quote, nuclear option, a change to Senate rules that would allow most legislation to pass with a simple majority instead of the usual 60 votes. The president said that if the filibuster remains in place, quote, for 3 years, nothing will be passed and Republicans will be blamed. Elections, including midterms, will be rightfully brutal.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi lobbed a massive rhetorical bomb at President Trump last night. Here's Pelosi with CNN's Alex Michelson.
It's just a vile creature. The worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Pelosi defended her harsh words about Trump, arguing that he, quote, does not honor the Constitution of the United States.
The BBC is under fire for allegedly doctoring footage of President Trump. The footage was used for the BBC Panorama program released a week before today's elections. Reports claim the BBC selectively edited portions of President Trump's speech on the morning of January 6th, making it seem as though the president directly encouraged rioters. Here's the edited clip played back-to-back with the original audio.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
The program reportedly stitched together unrelated clips from different parts of the speech, some of which were over an hour apart, and presented them as if they were a single coherent message. BBC, supposedly meant to be an impartial news outlet, is now facing major backlash over the incident. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson excoriated the outlet for their lack of journalistic standards in a statement on X, and others have called for the BBC's news accreditations in the United States to be reevaluated. A BBC spokesperson declined to comment on the deceptive edit. And Erica Kirk revealed that Jimmy Kimmel's team apparently reached out to apologize. Following Kimmel's inflammatory comments on her husband's assassination, Sinclair Broadcast Group reportedly invited Kirk to appear on Jimmy Kimmel Live so the late-night host could apologize on air. Kirk told the story to Fox News' Jesse Waters.
I responded. I told them, thank you. We received their note. This is not our issue, not our mess. If you want to say I'm sorry to someone who's grieving, go right ahead. But if that's not in your heart, don't do it. I don't want it. I don't need it.
All right, those are your drive home updates. To learn more about these stories and keep tabs on the elections in real time, go to dailywire.com. Meanwhile, we have just a few more hours to go before election results roll in, and we'll be burning the midnight oil tonight to bring you those results bright and early tomorrow. If you haven't already, check your local elections and get out and vote.